What is happening, everyone? Glorious day. The coffee tastes better. The birds are singing. The sun is out. Summer is almost here. You can feel it in the air. True change. Something has happened here. Something big and glorious. Something worth of celebration and song. Ladies and gentlemen, Toby Emmerich has stepped down as chairman of Warner Brothers Discovery. That's something to celebrate. It's something that we've been wishing for a very long time. Not that we wish people ill, but this guy, this character, this kind of person is very special. Is someone that, has been nothing but a horrible, destructive, toxic force in the DC Entertainment brand, Warner Brothers Pictures Group, and what was Warner Media and is now Warner Brothers Discovery. So it's a huge day. What just happened, transpired here, confirms something massive, which is that the Warner Bros. Discovery is in a way becoming what the AT&T merger was not. Here you're looking at a true clear out of all the studio heads that we've all identified as problematic for a very long time. You have seen and Sarnoff and Toby Emmerich now step down. In these acquisitions, I suppose that these things are like moving ships. You cannot just basically stop them and put them in reverse and expect things to work. You have to sort of transition smoothly in some way, but you do have to make changes. So I'm basically ecstatic about this having happened because, let's be honest, Toby Emmerich has been in the company for about 6 years, and you can clearly identify the loss of prestige of the Warner Brothers brand and the DC brand, particularly with the DCU. You can see it lose its shine, its luster as soon as this guy walks in. At some point in time, when you were going to the theaters to watch your Matrix movies or to watch your Batman movies, like your Dark Knight films and Harry Potter films, when you were sitting there and you see the Warner Brothers logo, you immediately think of prestige, of quality, of a cinematic experience, and that has been lost. That's not the case anymore. And over time, that has become a reality. So this guy is the driving force behind it. He's not a person I think is very talented. I think he's probably the worst executive in Hollywood, in my opinion. But regardless, him stepping down is a confirmation that things are definitely going to change. Michael DeLuca and Pam Abdi are going to be taking this position, so he effectively was fired. They are presenting it in a very, sugar-coated way, and this is what you do with executives. You will recall, I believe, when Kevin Tsujihara, who was disgraced for his behavior as the CEO of the company, he still got a goodbye party, and I believe a speech from, if I'm not wrong, Toby Emmerich and maybe even Diane Nelson. So in the executive circles, they still protect each other and their image to some degree. So the way that's being portrayed here, like he says, it is one where he did some soul searching and he was not interested in continuing with the animated group and the DC Entertainment. It's kind of funny because what's really happening here is, if that did happen, which I highly doubt that it would happen exactly as David Zaslav is saying, he was demoted. He would never be able to handle that kind of demotion. He is a person that deserves to basically be moved aside. His performance has been absolutely horrendous. If you look at the market share of Warner Brothers under his tenure, it's been basically a graph in decline. If you look at the bombs that he's put out there, they are significant. If you look at some of the losses that he's put through, there's some of the biggest ones that the company has seen. So his performance was bad. It's surprising to see somebody like that could last that long in the company in a leadership role. I think that Ann Sarnoff was his proxy. Ann Sarnoff was a business person, not a film studio person, and Toby Emmerich was kind of running things, for the most part. And to me, he's not a very talented person, and I can see in corporate levels when there is somebody that's aggressive enough and has no problem burning people's careers to get to the top, they will do so. And once they're at the top, they want to maintain the status quo to take benefit from it. Usually, that the pay is sufficient incentive to try to keep themselves there no matter what. But his time came and went, and what's clear is that the company is not doing well, that the company is losing money, that the hype and the interest in Warner Bros. As a brand, and in DC in particular as a brand, is not good. I say DC as something of importance because the rumors are saying that the silos as they're going to work, or the verticals as they're trying to structure the company as, is Warner Bros. Pictures Group for all your films, your independents, your standard films, which is a big part, or the largest part really. And then you have the animation part, and then you have DC as one vertical. So it is important. It's a key part, and it has dried out. Under his tenure, DC has gone from making big epic films and then trying to put out these over-edited, low-quality films. I mean, how can you go from an era where you were delivering Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Wonder Woman, potentially what became Zack Snyder's Justice League if it had come out at the right time? How do you go from that to Harley Quinn, Shazam, Wonder Twins, Batgirl, all cheap productions that nobody really cares about. Nobody. So I'm laughing here, because this is just kind of like a movie, where you have all these like super horrible people who are really bad at their job, but they have all the tricks in their bag to sustain themselves there. It's kind of like, it's almost like a comedy where you have these really inept managers that just cannot seem to get fired because the company's in a perpetual situation of mergers and acquisitions. But the time came and the movie's over. Toby Emmerich had to step down. His performance is for it, and the way the guy does business and behaves, it makes no sense. There was an article where they talk about, there's a quote from an insider that worked for New Line, supposedly could be a Warner Bros. Person too, just trying to hide their identity. But they make a very interesting quote in regards to Mike DeLuca and Toby Emmerich. The quote goes like this. It says, "When New Line had difficulties during town and country, they sacrificed DeLuca, who was a one-of-a-kind visionary," the producer said. "And now the prodigal son is back in charge of New Line and Warner, and I suspect this means a bold, bright future. I think now you have people running it who are going to serve as Warner Bros. Discovery and not themselves under strategic relationships at the expense of the company." Think about that. Think about the last thing. And not themselves under strategic relationships at the expense of the company. This is what I've been saying all along. Nothing that has happened in the past 5 years has made any sense. The company has been running on narratives, on Samba statistics, and on puff articles through the Rep and Variety and Deadline, attacking certain people and boosting up the profile of things that make no sense. I mean, this is why I know that the company was in trouble, because when you have somebody that gets to the top, they do whatever it takes to keep their position, to keep basically lining up their pockets. So what are these, they're obviously talking about Toby Emmerich, saying that this is somebody who was servicing himself under strategic relationships at the expense of the company. So what could be happening is, you could be seeing somebody who, was perfectly fine with the status quo of them being in control, and then they just line up their pockets. They don't care about, the brands and the well-being of the company, as long as they're taking in their bonuses, and that the projects, it doesn't matter if the projects already make profit, as long as they get, their pay. They're the people basically left with holding the bag essentially are the investors. So it seems to me that this makes sense, that that's what was happening. You have, all these like odd relationships on how to manage things, things like Jeff Johns, Peter Safran, James Gunn, especially James Gunn, things that just don't make sense. How do you, bring in a guy who has been disgraced and fired by Disney, and you give him a lifeline, and not only that, you give him basically the keys to the DCU, because we know Toby Emmerich was going to James Gunn's agent asking him to do Superman. Makes no sense. Why would you give him the Suicide Squad as a sort of new kind of not really but yes really sequel that totally bombed, and then on top of that you go for Peacemaker, and you try to make Peacemaker into something that supposedly is huge for HBO Max, when for all intents and purposes this thing is not performing to the degree that like something like The Witcher would, or something more significant. It's just all these things that just don't make sense, and they just keep doubling down when the Suicide Squad completely crashed at the box office. Walter Hamada's response is James Gunn is coming back. There's more. They keep saying he's coming back, when in reality all these projects are not interesting anyone, and they're actually tanking. Nobody cares about Peacemaker. Yeah, sure, some people will watch. Some base customers will be watching this. But is this something that makes sense? Is this something that contributes to a synergy? I don't think so. To the overall brand, I don't think so. So what was like Peacemaker's, masterstroke? To bring in shadowy figures of the Justice League and sort of desecrate them, or make fun of them, at least in a vulgar way. But then, it was a cheap marketing gimmick, I suppose, but it doesn't do anything, to hype anyone up. If anything, a lot of people had issues with the Aquaman joke and how it kind of reverses, some of the vision that had made the puppet character more popular, which is a little bit more serious. So anyways, a lot of things don't make sense here, in my opinion. From where the company was to where it is now, it just doesn't make sense. It does make sense to me that this is just some people profiting and benefiting from it. So we're seeing changes. We're seeing a DC that's going to unify. We're seeing perhaps a removal from CW as a brand. Maybe not as many productions or any productions whatsoever, focusing on putting things in HBO Max. Lots of things that could happen. It's good enough reason to be excited. The sky's the limit. At the very least, this is a new start. To me, Walter Hamada is in absolute danger. Some of the trades are reporting he will just sit down until replacement gets put in place. In my opinion, the guy super sucks. Todd Phillips, who may be a advisor to the DC line, is not very high on Walter Hamada's lack of vision. So Walter is pretty much gone. Jeff Johns and Greg Berlanti. I like to see what happens with those guys, because those guys, if there is anyone that can present lack of quality and sell to as a diamond, is them. So I'd like to see at the very least Jeff Johns removed as well. Toxic figure in the company. But overall, I'm very positive about what's happening here. Mike DeLuca is someone who is somebody clearly knows what he's doing. I think this is someone that has vision. I read somewhere that he's not the kind of person that likes to go the way of I don't know what you call that practice, but basically of screening research. He likes to have people with a vision come through, and apparently has paid off in some cases for him. I think that for DC, I don't want them to oversaturate just creating tons of content. Give me some big productions, some big names, 2-3 times a year, enough for people to discuss and look forward to what comes next year. But don't oversaturate it. Don't worry about hitting a certain amount. Just basically put a strategy together that can give you some base profit, and where you can assume some underperformance in some projects. Don't think that every time you swing you have to hit a home run, and that's basically what determines your success. Just get something sustainable, get people excited, Don't engage YouTubers and TikTokers, and those people don't move the needle for you. Just basically have a good online strategy. The online finance and Twitter are there for support. You can see that other companies are starting to wink at them, trying to get some marketing assistance like Amazon is doing with the boys. So it's there for the taking, but just stand by your product. I suspect that that's what's going to happen now. We're going to see a change of nonsense that has destroyed the company and the image of the company into something that can take us back to prestige. Yet to be seen who's going to be the new head of DC. Relevant people that you should be thinking of is potentially Alan Horn, who will join the company, DeLuca, Cam Abdi, and Todd Phillips, if I didn't name them already. So these are the people that will probably be able to decide who comes in on top of David Zaslav. So who's it going to be? I'm not really sure if a big name studio head is going to leave an entire studio to just focus on DC. I don't know if that could happen. But certainly they're looking for a film executive because that's what makes money. But I do think that this is probably the right way. And it's also important to say that Zaslav is looking at structuring things in the way that Disney has structured it with their Star Wars and Marvel brands, etc., etc., etc. So that tells me that Zaslav is indeed coming in to take a bigger piece of the pie that they have been getting for the past 5 years and establishing this as a big player. I believe that same insider mentions that with DC you should basically scrap all the Superman plans that they have and just basically start with the Henry Cavill-led Superman film. I agree with that. I think what we are looking at here is a relaunch. Take what was working or take what is now identified by the general population and run with it and try to make it grow. So you have your actors that everyone recognizes as Superman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman. You have a fan base that can help you. You have the subject matter and the brand that everyone recognizes. But, the only thing is you have to have your own identity. You cannot basically try to go for some gimmicky, nostalgic take like they were trying to do, or they're still trying to do with Michael Keaton. Just do something that can take the current audience and, get them interested in and, expect growth instead of expecting, a home run on the first hit. Get over first base first and then we'll talk. Overall, I'm happy, super happy that this guy's gone. Good riddance, horrible person. The Ray Fisher situation is a symptom of a very toxic environment that was him. That was, I assume, part of him. I've been suspecting that the party was the most nervous about all the claims that Ray Fisher was making about Warner Media. He is somebody with the pedigree to be able to push whatever button he wanted inside and outside. I think he had a lot to do with a lot of the press releases or interviews that they didn't have a name attached to it, but they were there to suppress the Snyderverse. So I'm happy this is changing, this is gone, and I'm happy that we're looking forward to a more unified and happy Warner Brothers Discovery, particularly DC. So this is gonna be fun, guys. I think that whatever happens next, you can take a deep breath and assume that whatever it is not more of the same. It could be something bigger. It could be something more attractive. There's no guarantee that the Snyderverse is going to come back, but if these people are smart and they look at the data, then they will make the right decisions. All I can say to you is make some noise. Do the right thing. Make that data, reflect something that you want to see. So don't let it get dismissed as bought information. Just do legit traffic that will leave a track record for what you want. So these people are watching, and this is a new group that's going to be listening. I don't think they're in a position to ignore the Snyderverse. They want to compete and they want to hit the ground running. They have to think about what they do have at their disposal that can work right away. They're trying to get out of debt. They're trying to basically make things work. So they're not in a position where they can just start from scratch. It really would be not a very good idea. It would take years of work to basically get to where they could start from today if they do things right. But treat the properties with respect. Go for the cinematic, epic, adventure-like, brand. Regain some confidence. Call Zack Snyder, please. Maybe put Debbie Snyder as head of DC Films. She has lots of film production. She knows the brand. She knows the fans. She knows the market. She's also synonymous with Warner Bros. For a very long time. She's a good, collaborator with Alan Horn. So let's hope something good comes out of this. I am positive. I would love to see continuation of the Snyderverse. That is what I want to see the absolute most. So let's see. I think cooler heads are starting to prevail. Big changes are going to continue to come. So it's going to develop through all the way to the summer. But this is going to be cool, guys. I mean, I take this with open arms. I expect more changes to happen. But some of the evil has been defeated, in my opinion. So definitely look forward to this, and it's gonna be great. So that's basically all I have in this update today. We'll talk about it a little bit more later. I still need to catch up with a couple of things, but maybe I'll talk about Stranger Things next, which seems to be the talk of the town. So until that time, I will catch you guys later. Thank you.